Hey everyone, welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage on this Saturday, November 9th, 2024. And in this forecast, we're going to be talking about the weekend forecast here this weekend, next week's pattern, and looking long range at the tropics as we're still in the midst of tropical weather season. So looking here at your height anomalies, we have a big ridge of high pressure across eastern Canada and the northeast United States. And as we always say with high pressure, you typically see warmer conditions and quieter conditions. We do have a low pressure trough though across the central US that will bring some unsettled weather today, cooling us off just a smidge. But looking at our temperature anomalies overall, you can see pretty warm, warmer than normal for early November standards across southern Canada, much of the northern and the eastern United States. Some cooler areas are when we lay down the recent snowpack across Colorado down into New Mexico, and some areas in the northeast near the I-95 corridor, Boston to New York City and up toward Maine. That is where we are a little bit cooler than normal here this weekend. Looking at your temperatures expected this afternoon, and you can see the warmest of our air will be closer to the Gulf Coast. That's where temperatures will be well into the 80s. This afternoon, further to the north, 50s are around, 60s are around in the Ohio Valley, like 62 in Indianapolis, 61 in Columbus, and 66 into Lexington, Kentucky this afternoon, and just a smidge warmer again as we go into Sunday afternoon, pulling that 60-degree line just a little bit further up to the north to end off your weekend on Sunday. We did see a pretty substantial snowstorm across parts of Colorado and into New Mexico. Feet of snow, yes, feet of snow did fall over the past 2 to 3 days. This goes over the past 72 hours, and eastern and southeastern Colorado were the big winners that saw over 3 feet of snow with this system. That same storm system is kicking out across the plains today into Nebraska and Kansas, and then finally up toward Wisconsin and the Great Lakes on Sunday. So this system will be bringing some moisture with it up across the Mississippi Valley and into the Midwest today, although it will be light moisture. We're not going to see any heavy downpours or any thunderstorm activity that will be severe, but just some soaking rains at times with some light precipitation going through tonight that'll spread up toward Lake Michigan and Lake Superior. And then as we go into Sunday, that all shifts over here toward Lake Erie and into the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, and parts of the Southeast as we round out the weekend. High pressure building in behind that, and you know what that means: more dry weather and some warmer conditions to end out the weekend. So going through the rest of the weekend here, the straight through Monday morning on Veterans Day, November 11th, 2024, you can see the heaviest of the moisture is going to be down here in Louisiana, and this is going to be a problem because some areas could see well over 6 inches of rain. That is why the Weather Prediction Center is forecasting a moderate to high risk of flash flooding. So if you live in central or southern Louisiana, even southeast Texas here outside the Houston area, you really need to pay attention because flash flooding is a big concern down here, and that actually extends up there toward Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, and northwest Alabama, with that slight and marginal risk for flash flooding this Saturday as well. Sunday, still flash flooding threat from southwest PA all the way down toward the Gulf Coast here into Mississippi, Louisiana, southeast Texas here. But the good news is it's only a marginal risk, so it may be more localized as we go into Sunday. And then looking at snowfall, you know, we see a lot of warmer air out there. It's probably going to be hard pressed to see a lot of heavy snow, but into the Rockies, of course, you know, where it's a little cooler over here and we laid down our big snowpack, we could be squeezing out maybe another inch or two of snow, maybe an inch or two of snow up here into the southern Canadian provinces throughout the weekend as well. Going into next week, Monday, Veterans Day on November 11th through Friday, the midpoint of November on November 15th. Big trough coming in across the Pacific Northwest, and this proves very worthy for very heavy precipitation as we go into next week for places like Seattle, into places like Vancouver up there in Canada, even Portland, Oregon, Northern California, and then a big ridge of high pressure out east, more of a progressive pattern. So looking at temperatures, yeah, we're seeing more of the same as we see more mild conditions across southern Canada, the central and eastern US, and then cooler conditions as that trough comes in out west, and very active it will be across the Pacific Northwest. We're talking again, Vancouver, down into portions there of Seattle, Portland, Medford and Eugene, Oregon, all the way down into northern California there, and some of that will trickle over into Idaho, western Montana. Some soaking rains across the upper Midwest and parts of the southeast coast toward the mid-Atlantic will be busy at times next week. So starting off the work week, this is Monday, Veterans Day. A lot of schools and a lot of your work are probably off on this day, and rightfully so. Get out and enjoy it. We have a big ridge of high pressure, and this means drier weather for most of the central U.S. Some unsettled weather across the east. If you do go outside, make sure to bring an umbrella with you on your Monday. And then a big storm system, Seattle, Portland, all the way down into Northern California, the Cascades getting some very heavy snow, the Vancouver area getting some very heavy snow on Monday. Some of that heavier snow will trickle over into Idaho, western Montana, western Wyoming, into the Salt Lake City area as we go into Tuesday. Drier high pressure out east, and then here comes that storm system here, and we can see some rain shower, maybe an isolated storm or two, non-severe thunderstorms across the upper Midwest on Wednesday, and then a high pressure in between that and the Rockies, and then you guessed it, yes, another big storm system moving into the Pacific Northwest Wednesday. Thursday that will continue, and even into Friday there as well, as the east will stay dry Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for the most part. So looking at precipitation throughout the week, Monday, Veterans Day, November 11th, 2024, through Friday, the midpoint of November. This is November 15th, 2024. Some very heavy precipitation across the Pacific Northwest, not only just for the Seattle area, Portland, but also Boise, Idaho, for example, western Montana, and even northern California, and then some soaking rains at times across the east. But this will be a more progressive pattern. You'll see a storm for maybe a day, and then we'll start to dry out the day after. So we're really not just seeing a storm sitting across the east. It's just kind of more of a progressive pattern. Looking at snowfall out there next week, very heavy it will be. Several storm systems for the Pacific Northwest, the Cascades here, Washington State down to Oregon, the Sierras down here in California, or the Rockies up here in Idaho, Montana, and down through Wyoming, Utah, and Colorado. Get some very heavy snow on the order of feet. We could see areas over 3 to 4 feet as we go through next week out there. Turning over to the tropics, we have been tracking for, it seems like, an endless amount of time, Rafael. This is a tropical storm in the central and western Gulf of Mexico. Very small, 10% chance, very unlikely development there for the Bahamas. Not too worried about that. Tropical storm Rafael is very close as it's going to get to the Gulf Coast here for the rest of its life cycle. And you can see this is still a pretty strong tropical storm, 50 miles per hour, moving west-northwest at 6 miles per hour. It's going to kind of catapult its way south and westward over the next few days into early next week toward Mexico as a post-tropical cyclone. And you can see the intensity guidance. It's as strong as it's going to get right now at 50 miles an hour. It's going to continue to weaken to a weak tropical storm and eventually back to a post-tropical cyclone as we go in towards early next week. So tracking it, 996, still a pretty strong tropical storm this afternoon. That'll weaken to 1,005 millibars on Sunday. This is probably a tropical depression or very weak tropical storm at this point, probably 30, 40 mile per hour system. And then as we get into Monday, Veterans Day, you can see it's a 1,008 millibar system. Obviously, as the pressure goes down, it's going to weaken. And then as we go into Tuesday, that's approaching Mexico as 1,010 millibars and maybe bringing some moisture there. But again, the moisture will be limited as we see that make landfall the middle of next week. Long range, we are not done with the tropical weather season. I know it's been a long season, but we are getting close to the end. But the Climate Prediction Center, the experts over there, are forecasting a chance of any tropical cyclones developing in and around the Greater Antilles and the Lesser Antilles, including the Caribbean and even the Eastern Pacific, that third week in November, taking you through November 19th and continuing through the Thanksgiving holiday time frame. So we need to continue to watch this across the Caribbean, even up there toward the Western Atlantic for more tropical cyclone development possible through the very end of November. And it is a very big sign here that we could see that because we have a lot of thermodynamics working in a favor. Look how warm the Caribbean is, folks. Parts of the Bahamas are still pretty warm. The Gulf of Mexico, a lot cooler, especially near the Gulf Coast, immediate Gulf Coast. Those shelf waters have been cooler because we've had multiple tropical systems making landfall. But I think as we start to see that, the lessening threat of any systems in the Gulf, but the Caribbean really needs to be watched, and we'll watch that right here for you on this channel. thank you all for watching. Hopefully you got the information here that you need moving forward through next week. I'll continue to post these videos, so subscribe to the channel for the latest weather information right at your fingertips, whether it's a video or live stream. Turn on all post notifications for my videos so you are notified when I do post them. Make sure to press the like button. It's the thumbs up button down below. And of course, leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. I'll get to those later on today, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their Saturday.